I read an online article from The Economist about how fixing potholes, improving bin collections and the like would be easy quick wins for Labour to improve the national mood. This is the old Morgan McSweeney game plan, which when he was fighting the BNP in London council boroughs, the BNP to many of us are as much as predecessor to Reform as UKIP, turned a load of London council seats back from BNP to Labour. And there's a point there, but come on tape, hardly inspiring. The real Labour game plan is the plan every successful government has taken in the UK since 1979, that the centre ground is where elections are won, whether it's Thatcherism or the more humane New Labour flavour of this neoliberal doctrine, where the City of London is our main economic driver, the markets trump the electorate, and Middle England decides the election. And to be fair, this has worked within the two-party system, but that's no longer the political reality. Farage-type anti-immigration populism was on the rise across the West, but it's never really had the legs in the UK. Although, to be fair, there's an argument that the Tories did their best to ride this bull from 2010 through to the Stop the Boats hysteria, but they were no MAGA. Whereas Farage's new setup, with a national infrastructure, is now making a MAGA-style movement, i.e. grassroots, professing to be for the people. By that I mean white people, while stirring the worst but often most easy to engage aspects of human nature, our tribal fear of the other. That is innate and really a genetic relic from our prehistorical and even pre-human evolution, in order to seize power and then enact the most right-wing agenda in living memory, against the interests of all the working class folk who drank the Kool-Aid. But they'll be too high on propaganda and visuals of refugees in tents behind wire fences to notice. But this is what we're facing, because we're seeing Labour's inability to put the mass working class vote ahead of the markets, and particularly the bond markets, to put together a progressive, bold new approach to taxation, to undo the damage 50 years of growing inequality and the explosion of private wealth in the face of both the wealth of the state and the 99% of the population has caused. Favouring the hackneyed centrist agenda and crucially overlooking one key fact. Farage just got organised. The next election will be his first shot at power using this new political machine, which looks like it now has the engine to pose a serious challenge to Labour, and may have already buried the Tories for at least this current election cycle. 2029 will be Farage's 2016. We're not looking at Trump 2 versus Biden here. We're approaching round 1. Trump v Hillary Clinton, the archetypal centrist candidate, who was sure Trump's radical approach, an unsavoury explanation as to why the US was no longer great, would never win him an election. But the Democrats, pollsters and the media were all wrong, as Trump brought out a whole swathe of previously disengaged and disenfranchised white working class voters, who delivered him the White House. Now, look at any number of interviews with ordinary people in Runcorn or Clacton or Hull. People believe, wrongly believe I might add, that Farage is on their side. One woman speaking to either Novara or Politics Joe said, "He's for us, for the British people." That should scare the crap out of you. One, because that's replaced in that voter's mind, and many others, the space that was once occupied by the Labour Party. And two, that their perception of what is wrong in this country is so out of skew with the reality that they think closing our borders will fix it. When Thatcher came to power, it was after the post-war economic model of state ownership of traditional empire-era major industry had failed. The 70s was dire. Nothing worked. Rubbish piled on the streets. There was a 4-day week. She called it out and ushered in the neoliberal era. Now we've just had our own version of the 1970s. It's Tory austerity, economic stagnation and falling living standards in the post-2008 financial crisis era. You and I know we're at a very similar point in history as Thatcher was in 79, a turning point. The economic model has been tested and has failed the ultimate test. Will it keep working in perpetuity? When it came to neoliberalism, she thought so, Blair thought so did Cameron. But boom bust as the rich stripped the wealth and assets of the working and middle class, and the low taxes and offshoring wealth bankrupted government. It has unequivocally failed. But instead of first admitting this, and then addressing it, Labour are saying the solution is more of the same. The problem is, the people might not understand why, but they feel the failure of the neoliberal model in their everyday lives, And then the populist vultures swoop in, blame brown people, and ride that headless demon racehorse to power, while we watch Labour try to keep up on their Thatcherite donkey, dragging a cart with the welfare state, human rights and general human decency behind them. In other words, Labour need to tell the truth, in simple terms, that greed and the encouragement of said greed has got us in this mess. That a small number of people have been able to accumulate private wealth that was once the stuff of only kings, queens and robber barons. And that a new model of taxation to rebalance this, taking that wealth back through the treasury then back to the people via services like health and education, is the only way to grow ourselves out of this Friedman-inspired cesspit. That a government with some cash to play with can then centrally select the British economy of the future, invest in green energy projects and whatever else on a mass scale, and drive us to a better future. This admittedly will take some political balls, but if you need motivation, close your eyes and imagine Farage standing outside number 10 in 2029, having visited Buckingham Palace to form his Reform UK government. Motivated now?